Varun and Ghazal, thank you so much for joining us here for what promises to be a very special conversation. You know, we've been tracking the Mamaearth story on Young Turks and Startup Street for ever since the company actually was incorporated. Ghazal, let me start by asking you, it was born out of a felt need. You wanted a product that was safe, that didn't have chemicals, that was not toxic, because you wanted that for your own child, and that was the very start, the very birth of Mamaearth. As you look back, since 2016 to where you find yourself today, what have been the big challenges that you've had to overcome, and what's been the most exciting part of putting this together?
Hey, first of all, thank you for having us. I think looking back is always a very special feeling to have, because from where we started with a very now I would say with a very narrow vision of just operating in one category to today having 6 brands under the company has been a beautiful journey. The long and short is just 6 years old. But I would say, and starting with what's the most exciting part of it and what has led us to be here where we are today, I think has been our consumers. And one thing which has worked really, really well for us has been constant listening to them. They're the ones who told us that Mamaearth had the capability of not just being a baby care brand, but also operating in the adult segment, and gave us the opportunity to play in the beauty and personal care segment across baby, skin, hair, body as a category. Even after that, just keeping a close focus on how their behaviors were changing. In a same day, a same consumer was opting for different kind of products, which made us envision that, you know, these are actually very big propositions which can be catered through different opportunities and different brands, right? That's how I think we've moved not just from Mamaearth, but to Derma Company, which is an active-based skincare brand, to a Be Blunt, which we've recently acquired, Ayuga, Aqualogica, and similarly. So that has been the most exciting journey, just being on the lookout for what's the next big thing that consumers want us to do. I think there have been a fair amount of learnings, especially if I would say that having a long-term vision and not a shorter one, which not just limits itself to opportunities within what you're doing right now, but also extends to people, of how you're thinking of the team and the org structure, not just from today, but from a tomorrow's lens, and getting ready for how do you see the company grow forward in the 3 years, and some of those aspects I think have been our biggest learning points.
Varun, you know, when you talk to the FMCG giants, I think the big question that everyone is asking is, how has a 6-year-old company been able to get into so many different categories?
The journey has been consumer first in nature, and once we figure a problem that the consumer is facing, the process of figuring out how to solve that problem with the product, that assembly line or that process is very similar for every category. It starts with a problem, it then starts with scanning what kind of solutions are available, why are they not fulfilling that problem today. Then, for example, one of the different things that we did was the whole aspect of shared ecosystem. I think it's been a game changer in the last 5 to 7 years, right? And that shared ecosystem does not only exist in, you know, the Uber, Oyos of the world, right? It exists in all aspects, right? I mean, aspects of finance, supply chain, warehousing, right? And also, if you look closely in aspects of production, right? In aspects of R&D, right? Whereby, for example, we were able to use the wisdom, right, that's available across ingredient suppliers and manufacturers globally. We always looked outwards to say, hey, who else can help partner with us in this journey and create a win-win solution
so
to the success.
you converted your weakness into a strength.
Yes, right. So we actually looked outwards, right, got these partners on board. Right? So whatever conceptual brief we developed, right, we gave it to a BASF, Croda, Lubrizol, and we said, all of you guys come with the best prototype, and we will put that prototype into the consumer testing. And whichever prototype does the best in terms of consumer response on sensorials, effectiveness, texture, clinical trials, and is what we finally take it forward. And for them, the win-win is if their prototype wins, their ingredients sort of, go into commercialization and that gets sold. Right? And so all of them would compete, right, to actually work with us and get these formulations going. And hence, suddenly, for a young company who wanted to get into 6 categories together, and there were more than like thousands of these scientists who were working on different kind of formulations to help us get there.
So here's what's interesting. So it's a D2C brand that doesn't own the R&D. You've got partners who are actually doing the R&D.
So now, of course, we do. Right? I'm talking about.
Now you do. But when you started off, R&D was outsourced, manufacturing was outsourced.
Yes.
So essentially, that's how you built the business around partnerships, around outsourcing most of your core, the core aspects of the business.
Actually, I would say core is marketing, innovation, and sales and distribution. Some of these larger core competence partners, right, because they've excelled in their own sphere, and hence it's more effective as well as more efficient.
So Ghazal, more effective and more efficient, and do you believe this is the reason why today you're one of the few profitable unicorns? Because in that sense, you haven't taken on the overheads that many others would, and this is why your unit economics are actually positive today.
I would like to say yes, but I think one of the main reasons for that also is both of our backgrounds, right? We come from a middle-class family where both of our fathers have been running their businesses, and the only thing that we knew was once profit is there in the companies when money comes home, right? So I think that was a part of us in some way when we started out. Of course, very early on, we did not have as much money also to invest into some of these things, and hence we figured our way out around the resources that were available to us, and we tried to use them the most efficiently. I think one of the things that we still very strongly do is return on everything that we spend, be it time or money. What is it that we are getting in return? And that focus has actually helped us be profitable.
Of the two of you, who's the more sort of, cracking the whip on every number, checking the return on capital and the return on time?
No, in fact, both of us, right? I more on the business and marketing side, she on the product margin side. And I always sort of, define frugality.
That's one of our core values, by the way, as an organization.
I define frugality for my organization as the way Indians buy grocery. Right? आप जितने मर्जी अमीर हो, आप जितने मर्जी गरीब हो, right? You will buy the groceries, you will negotiate for the best rate, and then you will ask for some dhania mirchi as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say, dhania and mirchi for free.
Exactly, right? So I think that mentality, that frugality mentality is important across the organization.
You started your journey as a digitally native brand, but today you're moving aggressively into the offline space as well, not just with Mamaearth, but of course, Be Blunt and some of the other acquisitions that you've done. How differently have you had to think, or how differently has the playbook had to change to ensure that you're making the best use of what you're doing online, but now as you move into the offline space, you deliver on that proposition as well?
So I think when we started out, honestly, offline was not one of the markets that were most efficient for us. We couldn't have cracked it. And even if we had to, imagine a new brand coming up, probably doing a pilot in one store on a shelf where there are 1,500 other products. How would you gain consumers' attention? It's actually very difficult.
How would you get shelf space to start with?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's difficult, right? You cannot communicate beyond what's there on your packaging, which is where online seemed to be the right channel for us, where we said that when you're starting off, you actually need your first 1,000 loyal consumers, and online actually gave us that opportunity to not just limit ourselves to any geography, but play pan-India. And those 1,000 consumers could be anywhere in India. But till the time they were understanding the proposition, the product, and believed in what we were saying, they would come on board. So I think to start with, that was a beautiful channel. But like I said, we've always been listening very closely to our consumers. As we moved forward in our journey, our consumers are the ones who told us where they wanted to see us. So when they said that, we would love to experience some of these products before we buy so that we can see the texture or try the products out, and offline is something that we are looking out for, is when we actually progressed into the offline channel. And not just offline, now we also have our exclusive stores, pan-India, where not just the products, but the entire brand philosophy, the goodness inside, the planting of trees, the plastic recycling, and how we recycle double the amount of plastic, all of that experience also comes to life. So I think that's the only route that we are following. So wherever they want us, you will see us there.
Yeah, but it's a completely different ball game, isn't it? I mean, in the online world, you don't have to take on the distribution muscle of the FMCG giants, which you do in the offline world. How has that been for you? Because the legacy incumbents perhaps are not playing in the online space to start with, so you got a free run there. But they are in this space. So how are you taking on the incumbents in the offline world?
No, so honestly, one of the things that we've always believed in, right, is if we would have honestly been looking at competition, right, we would have never even launched, right? Because from day one, people said, "Arey, there are so many giants. There is Johnson & Johnson, there is Himalayas and Baby Care. Kaise koi young brand ban sakta hai India mein?" Right? Similarly, when we were going offline, of course, everyone said, "Oh, there is HUL, there is L'Oreal, there is all of these guys. How can you get into the market?" Right? Like Ghazal said, we've been actually very consumer focused, right? And we don't care about what others are doing, right? Because honestly, that's not in our control. And what's in our control is understanding that there is consumer demand and showcasing that demand to the retailer. And see, the retailer has a certain business model, right? Of course, there is velocity that they is looking at, right? But apart from velocity, there are two other things that matter to them, right? I think one is the margins that they make on a product, right? And can you be a little better than what the current players are, especially in the short and medium term, and that will give you a headway. And as we shifted, we were very cognizant that we need to ensure our media, right, is also going out to support and giving air cover to this, right? Because velocity is very important, right? And so as we moved, we also started doubling down on, for example, the traditional mediums like TV, right? And we use television medium to further increase our reach, right? And that gave us velocity. Right? And the whole channel in offline is just about winning that early trust. Right? If initially the retailer understands the business logic, right, and starts seeing strong velocity, and you see them then asking and providing you and giving you more shelf space themselves.